Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software Great Tech Group. You're invited to join our conversation to model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation adventure of this great industry. My guest today is James Chesnut. James is the Senior Vice President of Nuclear Operations for Day & Zimmermann's Open Shop business unit. In this role, he is responsible for fossil and nuclear maintenance, value, and QA/QC services. James is a second-generation nuclear worker with 40 years of experience in construction, design modification, outage management, and maintenance in the power industry. Welcome to the show, James.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be on here.
Yeah, looking forward to the conversation. So I always love to get kind of people's origin story of how you ended up in the construction industry and what appealed to you about the industry and the space.
Well, it's interesting you say that because, when I think about my story, I really don't think about it as being anything special. But then as I tell others about it, they go, wow, how does that happen? So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I was born and raised down in South Georgia, right on the Chattahoochee River, and I was a rancher, a horse rancher, right? And growing up as a horse rancher, you got involved with things like cattle and farming and, and all of those type of agriculture type activities. And that seems to be the focus of the schools. That's the focus of the community. That's the focus of the churches. It's all around agriculture. And it was interesting as I was getting on into high school, my dad was started working at a nuclear power facility that was being built right on the Chattahoochee River, kind of help offset, our portfolio, so to speak, bring a little extra income into the house. And he started as a journeyman carpenter and was working night shift and was, doing pretty good. And then as he started getting more familiar with the power facility, started, growing up through it as I graduated high school, he got me involved in the to go over and get a job at this nuclear power facility. And one of the things that I was most skilled at was painting. Because during the off-season months of the agriculture season, one of the things that we would do, because we had such amount of pastures, is that we would sandblast and spray paint farming equipment and get them ready for the next season. And I got very good at it, studied it, learned how to apply the paint material, learned how to use all the equipment. And it just so happened this nuclear power facility was hiring painters. Me being 18 years old, went into a union environment. Most all of my peers were in their upper 20s, 30s. And I came in and I outpainted everyone during my testing. And they just could not believe that I had such a skill at an 18-year-old. And I told them, I said, basically my dad and I had been doing this since I was about 14. So that's really what got me into the business. And I'm working at this 2-unit, 2,100 megawatt facility, bigger than anything that I'd ever seen. And it was just amazing to walk into a huge facility like that and just be someone from an agricultural community.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't know the Georgia connection here as well too. I'm sitting literally right on the Chattahoochee right now, so I love the Chattahoochee. There's something in the water there for sure.
For sure, yes.
That's awesome. So how does someone who really started their career in the journeyman painter, and how do you rise up to executive position? And then kind of second part of that, what message do you have for young skill trade workers coming into the industry today?
Well, so the story goes is that, coming from a community, an agriculture community, you were either had the opportunity to go to college or you didn't, right? And it was just one of those opportunities where I didn't have the opportunity to go to college because my family was a blue collar, working family. And so as we started to find our way out of the agricultural community and find our way to be more interested into this power plant that's being built, what came with that was the ability to have a little more money, right? And so things that I couldn't afford as a younger individual, I was able to afford now as I was getting into 18, 19, 20 years old, ability to buy my own car. And do other things. So one of the things that I learned is this power facility had so much more to offer, right? And so as we were in the construction phase of it, eventually we built them. We built them and they went into operation. But I only knew construction. And I was watching all of my pals and my buddies that I had met during this construction phase, and they were moving off out of South Georgia, South Alabama to Virginia, Kansas, the Carolinas, moving on to other facilities that's under construction and doing the same things that we were doing. So I followed that path myself and ended up in Kansas at a facility that was about 5 years from being completely built. So that was around 1980, I guess, 81 and 82 time frame. And so I stayed with that plan. And it was about that time I was starting to settle down, getting on up around 23, 24. And I decided I wanted something a little different from my life. I had met someone that I felt like was giving me more of a stable community myself, and being my wife. And so I got very interested in staying on at this facility. And of course, I had worked my way through this facility and become someone that knew everything about this power plant. I mean, I knew where every nut and bolt was. I knew how the equipment run because I got to touch it all. And so being able to learn that through the being on site, I got the chance to become a utility worker, which meant I actually went for work for the power company. And I learned a lot of things there. But one of the things I didn't get was the ability to continue to explore more growth, because where I hired into was pretty much a routine, everyday job. And I was one of those individuals that I had to have challenges all the time and to keep myself motivated. And that was kind of what I have always tried to pass on for those that was around me, is that life has so many things to offer. You just have to, reach for it. Mm-hmm. And so after the power plant went online, I worked for about a year and then found my way on out into Arizona at one of the largest utility nuclear plants in the United States.
Interesting. How do you think your kind of career beginnings prepared you for your role now?
Well, so I got to interface and with a lot of people in the plant, a variety of people that had different backgrounds, from all over the country, different parts of the country that gave them different experiences, and I was able to learn from them. And one of the things that I felt like helped prepare me was that I got to see and work underneath as a mentee of those that didn't come from my background. They came from business-based type of backgrounds. They came from the Navy. They came from varieties of the military. They came from other manufacturing. It was very interesting to hear their thoughts on life itself. And so I got very interested in that. And so I would almost say started to emulate some of those behaviors myself. And one of the things that I found was, because of my experience in the plant, the amount of knowledge I had in regards to its operating, and it was starting to come together. When we would have meetings, I would find myself being very impactful to the conversation because of the fact of everything that I'd been exposed to and everything that I had learned just by being in the facility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like that. I'm a huge believer in diversity of thought and mixing it up with, different people's backgrounds and education levels and experience levels. I think there's so much that we can learn from each other if we sit down and we have those conversations and create that space. What do you think the industry maybe needs to inject into it a bit more to help kind of facilitate that and ramp that up so that it becomes maybe more common practice than what it is currently?
Well, in today's environment, one of the things that I've learned is that when utilities go out to hire, they create this framework of what they're looking for, right? In some areas they call it the purple squirrel, so to speak. I don't know if you've heard of the purple squirrel, but in recruiting organizations, a purple squirrel is, I want somebody that looks like this, right? Well, I'll tell you, there's not a lot of folks out there that look like this. And I'm a big advocate that if I can get somebody that's 50 to 60% that looks like this, They have good work ethic. They're curious. They get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and ready to hit it, and they don't mind working until it gets dark. And it's just kind of things that just really energizes them. You can frame that and you can mentor that into someone that can have a very fruitful career and constantly be challenged in a work environment that is always a learning environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to teach the work ethic and grit.
It
It's
really is.
yeah.
I'll tell you, Todd. I've had a lot of kids that's passed through my career, and from variety of different backgrounds. And of course, kids that have not been exposed to someone that's up in the morning, outside hitting it, constantly wanting to be outside, wanting to be on the go, always wanting to challenge. They've raised to get up in the morning, turn on the TV, and just watch TV until noon or something like that. But once you give them something that energizes them, whether it might be a game, whether it might I'm going to go build something with my hands, or I want to see a prop, something that happens, you can really get kids interested in wanting to get out and get to work. But it all has to do with how they're raised in the home environment.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that for sure. I think most people are really seeking and craving that purpose, and they're not really finding it in a lot of areas that they're searching for it. And so if the construction industry can kind of come along and create a good, compelling vision of really clearly communicate what career path looks like in the industry, I think it has a great story to tell. We're really not doing it on a mass scale very well right now. So kind of pivoting some. So vocational training has really started not started it's been declining for a while, with training in schools and whatnot. What can parents and communities do to really come around and reintroduce this value and purpose behind trade work?
The biggest thing is about changing people's minds about craft careers, and that it's not necessarily an alternative or a fallback. If you can't
Mm,
find your way into something that you want to do, these are good paying careers. So we got to really change people's thoughts about these types of craft careers, and what that means. These are sustainable, life changing, life fulfilling careers that people can get into and really feel like they're making a difference. But we got to be advocating for that, and not that it's, a fallback.
yeah. Man, that's good. I agree. I think it's the default position is if you can't make it in uh, college, or you can't do any of that, uh, then you go into the trades. It's this, yeah, it's not a first choice thing, which is ridiculous and not true at all. It's a great career, and um, yeah, it needs to be cast in the forefront there for sure.
Well, a lot of it starts with having exposure to to a discipline in the trades, right?
Hmm.
Working with wood, or working with paint, or working with metals, or whatever that may look like, working in electrical.
Hmm.
I think, we did a disservice to this industry back in the years when we took shop out of high schools. When I went to high school in the eighth grade, before you got into your high school year, you were exposed to three different areas of vocation. You were exposed to business, you were exposed to home economics, and you were exposed to agriculture. And every one of those had something to do with trying to help focus on what were you interested in. Okay. And of course, the agricultural piece for me got me out to be able to work with my hands. It taught me how to weld. It taught me how to build dog houses. It taught me how to deal with animals. It taught me how to be outside working with my hands, and I really enjoyed it. And for
Hmm.
others, people that was interested in accounting, or interested in business models, or whatever it had to do with home economics, whether it was being a chef or working in the tourism business, whatever that may be. We've taken that away from the kids to get exposed to that kind of offering in high school and after high school. And that's really where we have to get back. And I tell you, Todd, a lot of it has to do with educating parents, because I can tell you, parents today, young parents today, they do not know what the world has to offer when it comes to other opportunities outside of tourism, food, uh, uh, working in big department stores or department warehouses. Because those things are being built around them, they don't see these power plants that are tucked away off in less areas that are not highly populated, because they just don't see it. And those are very good careers there. They're energizing. They pay well, and it gives people today, something that they can see past what's right in front of them.
Yeah. So how do we better communicate that? Because I agree that I think that's a huge hurdle is the communication aspect of it. That so much of the industry is kind of kept off on the side as this great kept secret, but we need people coming into this space too. So how do we communicate that better and kind of debunk some of the stigmatism and misconceptions that are happening?
Well, a good example would be, and I'll just give you for the nuclear environment. So many people are afraid of nuclear environment because everything they've heard, right? They've heard and they've seen on TV. Their influence has been what they've seen on TV. They've seen Chernobyl. They've seen what's happened in Japan. They've seen 3 Mile Island, and that's how they see nuclear right now. But what they don't see is that nuclear plant that's right outside their backyard and how safe it's operating. Matter of fact, it's operating so safe under the radar, they may not even know it's there. I can tell you, I've worked at several nuclear facilities across the U.S., and you can walk into just about any community area and ask them where their power is being generated from, and they could not tell you because they do not know that a nuclear facility is in their backyard.
Mhm.
Right now, nuclear is probably providing somewhere around 27, 28% of the United States power grid operation, and is consistently increasing because of clean and green energy. The biggest thing that we can do is education, talk about it in our communities, talk about it in our churches, talk about it at the baseball games, you know, invite executives from power facilities into your community, into your church, and things like that, and talk about that. I've worked with several large utilities that have taken that stance because of the fact they're looking for uh, community support, especially when we were going through that stage of, you know, the environment was looking to take nuclear out because everybody felt that it was so unsafe. You started seeing more of the larger utilities, Arizona Public Service, Duke Energy, Dominion Energy, starting to really advertise safe, clean energy and what it's doing to provide safe, clean energy in the future, and get more community support from behind it.
Yeah. So kind of on that vein, how can companies really get involved with working with the high schools, working with the technical schools to create this support around workforce education and bringing people into the industry?
Well, there's a couple of things, and there's a couple call to actions that you know these executives can do to engage in their community. Number one is they can get on the political agenda and start supporting some of these bills that help fund education in the community, and really advertise that, really push that down in the community around uh, nuclear, hydrogen, whatever energy source may be, wind, solar. We'll talk specifically around nuclear because I believe that's the wave of the future. But especially as you start to see a lot of the new technologies around advanced reactors. Advanced reactor technology has been around for a very, very long time. It's just not been in a commercial sector. It's always been in the military. But now that they're bringing it into the commercial sector to provide clean energy, uh, carbon-free energy, you know, advertising, talking about it, having it on TV where people can see it. That's the biggest call to action. There is supporting bills to get energy jobs back into schools, and having community discussions to talk about the fact of how clean it is, how green it is, and how carbon-free the energy is.
Yeah, very cool. And I understand that you went in front of the Nebraska legislature recently. How do you feel government officials are looking to the industry members? So what can they help with? How's that experience? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I'll tell you, that was my first time at being able to do something like that at that level. So I was a little apprehensive about it because I didn't really know what to expect. But I will tell
Mhm.
you, as I went through that and some of the things that we pointed out to Nebraska in regards to trying to fund education careers around energy, one of the things that we told them, and we had some Nebraska Public Power District executives in the room, and of course we were one of the largest employers in Nebraska at their nuclear facility. And when I told them that we were employing around 10% of Nebraska residents to come in and work at their facility, that number was amazing to them. They did not realize that. And it was only because Nebraska is a big agricultural state, right? And
Mhm.
all of their focus is around agriculture, corn, um, produce, livestock. And but now that they have such a big power facility, they really get it now. And they said, we should be. And of course, they did ask us. They said, what should we be expecting? I said, you should be able to. When we start doing your refueling, I said, if we can't put 35 to 45% of Nebraska residents working at your facility, you're really missing out on a great economic upside of where you're spending your money.
Yeah, interesting. How wow, can other companies really kind of embrace it in their own area, and where do they go to really start that conversation?
Well, number one, write to your legislator, your congressman, your senator. Talk to them about funding education in their state, creating uh, energy type curriculums. Uh, it all starts with who's representing your state.
Yeah. So outside of the legislature and the political aspect of it, how do construction owners and executives, what's their responsibility for really getting involved with the workforce development? And why is that important?
Well, a couple of things is that construction companies that are looking to employ skilled trades folk have to make sure that skilled trades are being taught in their state, in their communities. So being able to challenge school boards to have skilled trades as a primary focus for students that come in that want to learn how to work with their hands. I'll give you an example of a skilled tradesperson that comes from a college that's they spent 4 years doing accounting, or they went into some kind of a business model and they still haven't found their way. But a skilled tradesperson that comes out and they're either a welder or they're an electrician, typically that takes 2 to 3 years to learn that and be proficient at it. I mean, those folks come out and ready to go work for a company when a college student that has spent 4 years in college would necessarily have anywhere from a 80 to a $90,000 debt. These trades folks are coming out and making 80 to $90,000 their first year salary,
Hmm.
right? And so being able to leverage those communication pieces, like, do you want to come out of a trade and make this kind of salary to be able to start being start a family and be productive in your community, or do you want to be working somewhere where you're having to pay off, takes you a couple of years to pay off your school debt? But the biggest thing that construction companies can do is just challenge their local communities to ensure that skilled trades are available in the local schools.
Yeah. What do you think the some of the hurdles are that we need to overcome? Because it is such a great message and power, as you just laid out there. Of you can be young in your 20s and and come out and making a great living and have a great career path with lots of opportunity and not have all the debt as people that come out of college do. What's the hurdle and what's the breakdown in really getting that message across?
Well, in my experience, the hurdle been so far has been communication. People even know that those opportunities are out there. We've been to several community colleges, uh, resource recruiting for disciplines, and just getting our name out there for entry level skills. And what we're finding is that the majority of the students that go to these vocational vocational and technical college aren't even aware that there's great paying jobs available not that far from them, and they're concentrating on things that that they believe right in front of them, like business or accounting. And there's nothing wrong with that, because those are very good skilled trades if you find the right job. But I think the biggest hurdle for us is making sure the schools are advocating for skilled trades. And they only do that from the requisitioning of the community. The community has to come in and say, we need skilled trades to be taught at our local schools, because if we don't, our kids will grow up out of high schools and they will have to leave the community to go find successful careers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. What kind of things are you all doing at Dane Zimmerman to help in this effort and reach out to the community?
Well, across the nation, variety of different places: Arizona, Mississippi, Virginia, the Carolinas, down in Georgia, South Carolina. We are actively engaging with high schools and vocational colleges to tell them that we have jobs. And when we walk into these schools and tell them we have jobs, they ask us, what can we do to help fulfill your job? Well, we need curriculums in your school where we're teaching people how to be a master carpenter, or be a welder, or be an electrician, or instrument technician, whatever those skilled trades are. And if the schools can advocate for those type of disciplines, when the graduating classes come out of that, we have jobs for them. We also have jobs outside of high schools. We're starting to find that even though we've been into some of the vocational and technical colleges, we're starting to find that we have to get down into high school levels, and sometimes even in the middle school levels, to start creating the message that there are great jobs in your community that you can have and not have to leave your community, whether it's welding, whether it's painting, whether it's electrical, heating and ventilation, whatever that skilled trade may be. There's jobs available in your local community if you want to stay here, but we have to be able to teach it here.
Yeah, I love that. What do you see the kind of the future landscape of the industry looking like over the next 5 years or so?
Well, I'll tell you. So in the next 5 years, we're going to struggle. Right now, we are. If you take a look at where the construction industry is currently, we are about 540,000 employees short of filling the construction need, and that's today. Okay, and that is without, the new builds of small modular reactors, as without the builds of advanced reactors that's coming into the future, and we will see those in the next decade. We will see small modular reactors. We will see green energy and clean energy sources over the next decade. And if we don't find our way to start getting, the folks that are in our community skilled up to support those jobs, we will find ourselves stopping the build of the new small modular reactors, because we just don't have people to do it, or we'll have to outsource it to other countries to kind of provide that for us.
Mm-hmm. Do you see a kind of technical trend or innovation happening to kind of help offset the labor shortage?
I do. So from that perspective, technology is changing every day. Currently, right now, for us to turn someone out to be a proficient, eligible journeyman, it typically takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And that's what we continue to tell the country, that in order to become a proficient journeyman and to be employable, you need 3 to 5 years of experience, right? Well, today, with the access to information that we have so quickly, and the fact that we're using technology to improve our skill sets, whatever it may be, measuring and test equipment, orbital welding, a variety of different other tooling that allows our jobs to be easier, we have to bring that technology to the schools. Because I tell you that the kids in schools today, they're starving for that kind of technology, right? And it's kind of that work smarter versus harder thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We have to be able to innovate the schools to invest in those kind of technologies and to be able to teach that so we can turn out these proficient, eligible craft folk quicker and get them into good paying jobs, jobs that provide them good careers and are constantly challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the technology piece is interesting. It's one of the things that I talk a lot about with people that aren't in the industry, that there is way more tech in this space than what people on the outside really think or give credit for. Same with innovation. There's so many incredible creative problem solving and really cool things happening here in the space. And we focus a lot about innovation on the show here. Um, what does innovation, what does that really mean to you?
Well, and innovation, it's all about the next generation, right? It's about being able to provide them the tools and the information where it helps make their jobs easier. And part of that is, finding smarter ways to go get work done, right? And innovation is part of that. I constantly tell people that's around me is that it's not that we're not surrounded by innovative opportunities, it's people do not know how to bring their thought out and create an innovative concept because they just don't know the pathway of how to
Mm,
do it. I was having discussions with folks earlier today where we was talking about some innovation, and they were talking about some pretty great things about a training opportunity and how it would make their jobs easier. And I said, right there is exactly what I'm talking about. I said, the fact that we've made training easier for someone through computer-based training or whatever it may be, that is innovative thought.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I loved what you said just then of knowing the right pathway to make innovation happen. I think that's spot on there. That it's a lot of times innovation is the simplest idea, but then in our minds we try to complicate getting that to a reality when really the simplicity is what makes it innovative, and we need to strip out all the complexities to really bring it to market or to fruition. Well, how do people find out more information and connect with you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm James Chestnut's my name, spelled Chesnut. You can reach me on LinkedIn. Also, we have an app that you can download on your phone. It's called DZ JobLinX, and you can find that. And that is a great opportunity for people to see exactly what's out there, because on DZ JobLinks we have all of our jobs that's available, we have our crafts that are available, and we have the opportunity to apply for an opportunity. We have dayzim.com. People can go to the website, they can search our website and see everything that we have that's available to them. And then I think that's pretty much about it.
Awesome. I'd love to learn more about the app. Why did you all create an app for the trade jobs here?
Well, we started this app about 2 years ago, and it was really more of a thought. And I continued to impress upon people is that, in the past, people used to be able to pick up the telephone, you'd be able to talk to them. You say, hey, I got a job for you. Well, guess what? People do so much now call screening, and there's so much phishing and scams through the telephone as people will not pick up a phone anymore with an unknown number, right?
Yeah.
I said, so how do people communicate? They communicate through social media. They communicate through electronics, websites. I said, so we got to find a way to communicate to people where they can, through their own, ability to search for information, where they don't feel like they're being, captured somewhere and concerned about being scammed. So we created this DZ JobLinX where people can go in and search without putting any credentials in. They can see what's out there. They can look up its credibility. They can make phone calls to even validate and verify that these opportunities exist.
Hmm.
And so they can do all of that without being held hostage by being able to, answer a telephone number that they don't recognize.
Yeah. I love that. Innovation in practice right there. That's awesome. Final question for you. If I could give you all construction power, you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing in the industry, what would you pick to innovate?
I would pick to innovate, find ways to get people through the skilled crafts quicker by using access to information, by using new technologies for tools. We have to find a way to get people from wanting a career to having a career quicker.
It's a great answer. It's a great answer. Great way to end the episode. James, thanks so much for taking the time and coming on the show today.
You bet. Thank you.